Good evening and welcome to the Press Box. I'm Vanessa Johnson, and for the next 30 minutes, I'll be your host. With me are Reynolds and Marcks. How you guys doing?
Happy to be here.
Yep.
That's good. Okay, we're going to start the show off talking about the Atlanta Knights. They're the second best in the league. What's going on with that?
Well, I can wrap it up in 2 words: home cooking. There must be something about the Omni nowadays, Jay, because it seems like the home team there never loses. This Knights club is all of a sudden playing well, and earlier where you saw them do little things to find ways to lose hockey games, and now they're doing the little things to win hockey games, and it's showing. The one thing that still concerns me, though, is their performance killing off penalties. And, Jay, this team just still gets way too many penalties, and that's going to come back and beat you in some big games. And they got a couple of big games coming up against Las Vegas, the best team, I think, coming up this weekend.
I think the 3 best teams are right there in their division. Kansas City, Milwaukee, and Atlanta. If you look at the standings, they're always bunched up, and those probably will finish 1, 2, and 3, although San Diego's pretty good, too. As far as the penalties, I don't think they get that many.
San Diego or Las Vegas that we're playing?
San Diego is the
best
San
Diego?
Yeah. That's all right. The thing with the penalties is when they play the Milwaukee or San Diego, because they have that Shank guy, they tend to get a lot of penalties in a big game. But when they play the lesser teams, they really stick to business, I think, and put the games away.
Well, we'll see.
One thing that really helped this weekend against Milwaukee was Milwaukee had 2 players that were on loan, and they had to go back and help Tampa. I think it was Ruff and Lafreniere. I don't know how to speak French. And so that helped the Knights because the 2 games they had to play, they weren't available to the Admirals. And those are 2 good players. So everything seems to be playing in their hands. I think they're going to do all right. They may have a shot at the championship this year. I'm
just really been impressed with the performance of the goaltending lately as well. And in this league where you have schedules the way they're set up with constant back-to-back home games, and sometimes you have 3 games in a row, you're going to have 2 really good goaltenders. And that gives you the opportunity to win 3 games in a row. And I think that's a plus that the Knights have.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, what about the NFL? Let's move on. The Falcons. What happened last week? I mean, at first they were winning and looked like a good game, and then all of a sudden,
I think it was the 46 defense. I think that they made adjustments on their defense, and there were things happening out there that the Falcons couldn't solve. I mean, here it is. Houston got about 20 points off of their defense making big plays. Of course, one of the plays was a deflected pass that was intercepted, but certainly that's the difference in the game right there was the 46 defense, and you got to give one to Buddy Ryan there. I think he pulled a clinic. I think Jerry Glanville was yet again another student at a coaching clinic.
Jay, what do you think?
That's somewhat what happened, but also Hebert, his arm was so sore, you could tell that on the interception he threw where he's trying to hit Ryson down the sideline, he lofted that ball too much because he doesn't have the elbow to zip that pass in. And the one that bounced off Pritchard's hands, that also was not thrown with a follow-through. And he's hurting, and I don't understand why they haven't gone out and gotten a quality backup. I mean, they signed Galliano, but now they're afraid to put him in because he, quote, doesn't learn the system or whatever. When you got a guy that's hurt, and Tolliver, I think, is also got a separated shoulder or something. Yeah. So now you're working with 2 quarterbacks that can't throw the ball over 15 yards. So naturally, the 46 defense is just going to shut you down because you got to extend Buddy Ryan's defense. You have to throw deep, and they learned right away, I think, that Hebert couldn't throw the ball deep. And once they saw that, they moved everybody up the line. He normally plays 46, 4 and 6 people, 10 men near the line anyway. So in order to beat Buddy Ryan, you have to throw the ball deep, and the Falcons just can't. And they won't be able to this Saturday either because his arm's not going to get any better.
All right. Yeah. So do you think they should have put someone else in because he couldn't throw anyway? And
if they would establish the ground game that Ty and I have been trying to get him to do, they would have been fine because then you can grind it out, keep the game close, and maybe win it with a short pass. But they don't have a ground game. Now they don't have a deep passing game, so they're just sunk. But, you know, just when you count them out, they'll probably luck up and beat the 49ers like they did the Cowboys. Then all the Falcon fans will say, hey, we got a shot at the playoffs.
No way.
But, or is it that they just need another quarterback? What do you think about that?
I think Hebert came in here and gave them something they didn't have. You know, they had that pansy there forever, and then when he stepped in the huddle, the team picked up because they can sense that sort of thing. A football player in the huddle can tell when your quarterback has guts, we'll say, okay?
Right.
And Miller, he has got the arm. I mean, he's got a major league arm and can really deliver that ball. But you have to keep everybody away from him. You touch him, he gets hurt, he starts whining, and then he doesn't want to compete for his job and stuff like that. So I think Hebert did bring them something. Now, they should, if he's hurt in the offseason, then they need to go get a quarterback with guts and a strong arm.
Right, we got to give him a little bit of credit because he was hurt and he still tried to continue through the game.
Yeah, this is NFL, though. I mean, you can pat the guy on the back and say, good job, but you're not going to win a game like that.
Jay, how many quarterbacks are we going to go after now? I mean, you had Chris Miller before, and then you bring in Hebert, and then you start up a quarterback controversy here. I really don't think quarterbacks are the answer here. I really don't think it's going to matter who they have in there this weekend. I think San Francisco is about the hottest team in the NFL right now, and they're going to come in and beat the Falcons, I think, by at least 2 touchdowns.
Well, they're going to be missing Taylor and Waters and Wallace. 3 great offensive players. So
that's why they're going to beat them by 2 touchdowns instead of 3.
Okay. That could be. I'm not sure. I just think the Falcons got a good offensive line, even though they let Fralick go. Lincoln Kennedy and Whitfield, they'll be all right. Yeah. And they got good receivers, so that's why I keep pointing to the quarterback position. I don't think Miller's the answer. And I just think Hebert, like when he's that hurt, how can he be effective? You can try real hard, but yeah, maybe they should draft Eric Zier out of Georgia since
Let's
he's coming
hope
out
not.
early.
Let's hope not.
Okay, Ty, you mentioned something about the 49ers being the best team right now. Okay, what happened to the Cowboys? Because the way they're playing now,
well,
what
Dallas,
are their chances for making it to
first
the
of all,
playoffs?
if I'm Jimmy Johnson, I have to be elated. And I'll tell you why. His team has not played well this year up to Dallas Cowboys standards.
Right.
And they've had some injuries. Aikman's been hurt. Emmitt Smith has been hurt. This team's 8-4. Let's not kid ourselves.
Right.
San Francisco and New York are top of the league, or rather the NFC, at 9-3. 1 game out. I mean, if Dallas can somehow get that home field advantage, they're going to be very tough to beat in the playoffs. Although I think San Francisco is going to hold on to that. I think Dallas is going to end up with the 2nd-best record in the league, and I think the NFC Championship is going to be decided in Candlestick, and I think San Francisco will win that and go win the Super Bowl.
If you remember, the NFC Championship was decided in Candlestick last year, and Dallas won the game.
I'd like to see him do it 2 years in a row. That'll really make a believer out of me. I really think that Dallas club last year is a lot better than this year, but San Francisco was my pick at the beginning of the year to win it all. I'm going to stay with that.
Talent-wise, Dallas might be better, but I'll tell you, to quote Alex Karras, the year after Super Bowl,
you won those black and blue division guys.
Listen. Alex Karras used to say, "You're just not hungry with a pig on your back," and that's the truth. And I think Dallas has a hard time getting up for these games because they did so much in off season. They won the Super Bowl. They danced around. And now they're used to being on top. And, you got to get ready like you're the underdog every week in the NFL. You can't walk out there and say, hey, we're the better team. So, break here, break there, we're going to win this game. You don't do that. You got to get up for the game like you're the underdog, and you got to play hard all 4 quarters. And I think that's what's wrong with Dallas right now. They're just not as motivated as they were last year.
Okay. I'd like to take this time and remind our viewers that this is a live show. If you have any questions that you want to ask, just give us a call at 873-6713. Okay, let's talk about some other significant games this weekend, like Kansas City against Denver.
Well, that's very important because those are the 2 teams atop the AFC West. But I'll tell you something. All the games except Cincinnati and New England are important this week. Jay, when you look through the schedule, every game has got at least one team in there battling for a playoff position or trying to hold on to a playoff position or battling for the division. I think this is a great week where maybe some things will be decided here. Kansas City, they're the type of team that if they have Joe Montana, they're going to find ways to win. Montana was 20 of 39 last week. No interceptions, 239 yards. I mean, when you have a guy performing like that, Kansas City's going to win football games because they have a solid defense.
What do you think, Jay?
I think Kansas City will win too, and Ty's right pointing out that Montana is the difference. They have gotten away with saving him for divisional games. I don't know if you guys have realized that or not, but Montana has not played unless it's been against an AFC Western Division opponent. And it's like, I can't believe the other teams are letting them get away with that. But as long as they win those games, they'll win their division. And right now, I think they're tied for the best record in the AFC.
Yeah, there's something like 9-3 as well.
But, you say that Cincinnati and New England isn't worth anything. That's for the first pick of the draft. So even that game's worth something, right?
Maybe.
What about Montana versus Steve Young in the Super Bowl?
That would be interesting.
Very.
Although I think the supporting cast around Steve Young is probably a little better than the supporting cast around Kansas City, but you can't, the factor of a Marcus Allen and Joe Montana, you just can't sum that up with a couple of comments because they could carry them all the way.
Right. Okay, what do you guys think about the Miami game this weekend?
I think that's a good game. That's a big game. I mean, here it is, Jay. Miami is atop the AFC East, and obviously they want to hold on not only that position to gain home field over a team like Buffalo, but also against a team like Kansas City. That is, and here's Pittsburgh trying to catch up with Houston in the AFC Central. I think Miami's playing really well right now, and Don Shula has his kids adapting to that system that he has really well. That's a team that just looks very cohesive, and I like Miami.
Yeah, well, that's Shula right there. I mean, that's why he leads all the history of NFL and wins, because he can coach with whatever he has. You could give him a Pop Warner team, and he'd probably finish 500 in the NFL. So, yeah, I like Miami. However, this is the kind of game that Pittsburgh uses as a catalyst to just springboard into the rest of their season. I don't know if you remember, they were on national TV about 3 weeks ago and really played over their heads, and everyone declared them the best team in the AFC. Then they proceeded to lose 2 games in a row because they weren't on national TV. Yeah. So when Pittsburgh's on national TV, their defense can really get it up. That Lloyd guy and that Woodson guy, boy, they play well when they're on national TV.
Okay, we have a phone call. Thank you for calling. Caller, you're on the air.
Yeah, I was just wondering, what do you think of Ray Goff's chances of staying at Georgia?
A good question.
Well, he's definitely going to stay there.
Ray Goff is going to stay. There's no doubt about it. If they were going to make a change, they would have made it right now because of recruiting. I think this is a crucial year for Georgia. They have a lot of critical games on their schedule. I would say the critical games are Tennessee at home. You have Clemson at home. You got Alabama in Tuscaloosa, Florida in Gainesville, and Auburn down on the plain there in Alabama. That's 5 games. I would want to go at least 2-3 in those football games, and I don't think that's asking that much. If you cannot do that with a program on the level of Georgia's, it's time to get out. If you cannot handle that, and if the athletic director defends him saying, well, it's tough in this league, he needs to get out too, plain and simple. I mean, if you're going to sit there and be content with 7-4 and 8-3 with a powerhouse division school like that in the Southeastern Conference, you don't belong there. Tennessee would not tolerate it. Florida would not tolerate it. Alabama would not tolerate it.
It seems like he's lost every critical game in the SEC that he's played since he's been at Georgia.
I agree with that.
I go back to Tennessee, the 10-2 year, 1992, the Florida game. Then you look at the big games this year, Florida and again Tennessee. It seems like he's losing all the big ones.
I agree with you totally. A lot of those losses are dependent on Georgia not being able to stop the other team when they have 3rd and 4th and long situations. And I agree with you totally. I mean, you cannot do that and be competitive in the Southeastern Conference.
As far as him leaving, you know he's got one more year now because they hired Marion Campbell as sort of a stopgap, stop the bleeding kind of thing. So if they were going to go with somebody like a college-type defensive coordinator that could move up into the head coaching job, they would have done that, and that would have signaled the end of Ray Goff. But I think that the fact that they hired Marion Campbell, he's going to be around one more year. And like Ty said, if he can do well in those big games, he'll stay around, but I don't think so.
All right, well, thanks a lot.
Okay, thanks for the phone call.
Okay, since we're in, before we talk about Georgia, let's talk about the national title right now. What do you guys have to say about that?
Jay, you haven't been here the last couple of weeks, and I had told people that basically we're changing the rules here for Bobby Bowden, it looks like.
What is the deal on
you know,
that?
here it is in 1984. You had Brigham Young. I didn't think they were the best team, but they were undefeated. They were voted number 1. In 1990, Georgia Tech was undefeated. They were voted number 1.
But they were the best team.
Oh, no way. 1990, Miami was the best team in 1990, hands down. Their only loss was to Notre Dame that year. And what's funny is that Florida State's in the same situation. Their only loss was at Notre Dame, and here it is. They're in the national championship picture. Well, why wasn't Miami in the picture in 1990? So if it were up to me, I would put West Virginia and Nebraska in the national championship, even though that's not who I think the best team is. I think the best team's Notre Dame.
Well,
but that's who I would put in there because I think they earned it. And that's been the trend that they've been going by.
What I don't understand now is if this pans out, Florida State beats Nebraska and West Virginia loses to whoever they're playing, And Notre Dame and Florida State finished with identical, what would it be, 11-1, 12-1 records. How can you rank Florida State ahead of Notre Dame since Notre Dame beat them? Now, people are saying this won't happen if you go to a playoff system. But still, if you look at what's happening now, you could say the same thing in a playoff system. Supposing you have a college team that finished 7-4, got into the playoff system, went through the playoffs, won the national title, but they beat someone that was 11-0. Okay? Well, those people are going to say, yeah, we're 11-1. We're a lot better than that team that's 11-4 or whatever. And so you're going to have the same thing if you allow that to happen. I think that the fact that they played head-to-head and one team won, that should have all the bearing. I don't understand the fact that Boston College beat Notre Dame and they were a lower-ranked team than Notre Dame was when they beat Florida State. That's just ridiculous. The whole thing is just oriented to Bobby Bowden winning the national championship because he hadn't had one yet. Well, big deal. He didn't win the Notre Dame game, so he'll never be national champ.
Okay. I'll tell you what, I'll add something on that for Notre Dame's schedule. I mean, here it is. They had Florida State and Boston College back-to-back. People don't realize that there are only 4 teams in America that averaged over 500 yards a game on offense, and Notre Dame had 2 of them back-to-back weeks, Florida State and Boston College. The other 2 are Fresno State and Nevada, and they obviously don't play the competition that the other 2 teams play. So when you go against something like that, that's very tough on your defense and your defensive coordinator, and it just so happens that it caught up with Notre Dame. I still think the Irish are the best team.
Now, I don't think they're the best team. I never said that. I just said they should be ranked higher than Florida State. They can't be the best team because they stunk against Purdue and Navy. For God's sakes, if you're the number 1 team in the nation, you're going to rout those kind of teams. Right. They didn't. I think you got to go with a Nebraska or West Virginia. They don't have any say on their schedule. You know, they play a conference schedule and then and they finished undefeated. It's just like, sorry. I'm sorry that maybe they did play North Texas State or something like that, but they won every game they played. Notre Dame didn't. FSU didn't.
Jay, show me another team that can go out there and play Florida State and Boston College back-to-back and beat them both.
Well, I don't know if there is a team.
There isn't a team. Notre Dame became the closest, and Boston College needed a miraculous field goal at the end of the game. And here it is.
Oh, they were ahead the whole game. I mean, they just trampled on them like they weren't even there. And then the Irish got this touchdown Jesus thing going, and all of a sudden they were back in the game.
Right, okay, we have a phone call. Thank you for calling, caller. You're on the air.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. I wanted to ask you guys, me and a couple of friends of mine, we were arguing this weekend over this bowl coalition and the AP polls and the coaches bowl. And I want to know your personal feelings about Auburn being ranked even though they're not eligible to play in the bowl. How do you feel about them being ranked? I believe, they're ranked number 4 or 5 or something?
They're number 5 now. Notre Dame jumped ahead of them.
Well, they're not ranked in the bowl coalition, are they?
Yeah, they are. They are ranked in the bowl coalition.
Well, they didn't get any points from the coaches poll, right? Because they're on probation. So how can they be ranked?
But the coalition has a different poll.
Okay.
And they're in that, and they're also in the writers' poll.
But they doubled their
Well, to
points
answer
from
your
the
question,
poll.
they shouldn't be ranked. They cheated. They got caught. Everyone else that cheated and got caught had no business being up there. So what if Auburn finished 11-0? They're a bunch of cheaters.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I just think it messes up the whole picture as far as the certain amount of teams that's played all year
Sure.
has been ranked, and here you got a team that's not even going to be able to make it to a bowl game and it's ranked, and I think that's just not fair.
Another thing along those lines is, they're getting their high ranking from the AP, which is sports writers. Now, if you have a ban on TV, you tell me how these national sports writers can see that team play and tell me how they can rank them when they haven't seen them play. They're just going on who their record, and they beat Florida, I guess, or Tennessee, or somebody like that. So they won one good game, and now they're supposed to be national champs.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Okay, guys, thanks a lot.
Thanks for the call.
Going back to that, Jay, hey, if they're going to do it for one bout, you might as well do it for the other bout and stick him up there as well. If he just talks a little bit more, maybe I can get the coalition to push him up to number 2 or 3.
Maybe. I just wonder, when SMU got in trouble, they didn't get ranked. They didn't whine about, being a better team than Texas or something. They had a 9-1-1 record when they were on probation, and Texas went to the Cotton Bowl, and they weren't as good a team, but you didn't hear SMU whine and cry. I just think that Auburn, they don't have the right attitude. They got caught. The rules are all there for every NCAA school, and to tell you the truth, everyone cheats. It's only the flagrant ones that get caught, and they were flagrant in their cheating, and so they don't deserve to be ranked.
I would agree with that. I don't think they deserve to be ranked either, but they're one heck of a football team. That guy did not lead them empty-handed, trust me.
What about underdogs in the college football era?
I'll tell you, one of the things that surprised me, Jay, was your Wisconsin team going out to Pasadena, out there to the Rose Bowl, playing at true UCLA's home field, being a 7-point underdog. I really like this Wisconsin team. I think they have a powerful line of scrimmage. And what's amazing is that when you think about Wisconsin and Barry Alvarez, you think, well, he's a defensive mind. They're going to be loaded defensively. I got news for you. They're much higher rated offensively than they are defensively, and they have 2 running backs that can both have the ability to get over 100 yards.
They have 6 times, Moss and Fletcher. But I'll tell you what, this is going to be the best bowl game. I know everyone's looking for that Florida State to rout Nebraska, but this is a classic passing team versus a running team matchup. Wisconsin pounds the ball at you. They got huge offensive line. That's why their running backs get 100 yards. And UCLA will throw the ball on every down. They got one of the best passing attacks in all college football, maybe.
Yeah, they got a great receiver in Stokes.
Yeah, and so you're going to see one team try to pass the ball and win the game. The other team's going to try to grind it out, and that's just a classic football matchup. And I think that's going to turn out to be an exciting game.
Another game that I think is really interesting is that Alabama's a 3-point underdog against North Carolina. When North Carolina played Florida State at home, what did they score, 7 points? Okay, Florida State is like the number 6 defense in the country. Alabama's something like 3 or 4. And Alabama's had a whole bunch of injuries, and that's why they've lost games.
Well, that's also why they're picked as an underdog, because they don't have a quarterback. They're not going to score any points.
But I tell you what, if they get all those offensive linemen back and those defensive linemen back, if they get healthy, which I think they will, I think they're gonna dominate the line of scrimmage against North Carolina.
I disagree. I just think Alabama's too banged up.
Yeah.
Their season's shot. You know what I mean? They're real disappointed. They're going to go in there. They may turn it on at the end. You know, that could also turn into a good game.
I'm just telling you, if Alabama wants to play football that night, North Carolina will have not even seen a defense like that this year.
I think Alabama better look towards next year.
I think Alabama. The only thing that hurts them is not having Antonio Langham. That hurts because he was the best defensive back in the country.
Yeah.
But when you sit there and you take away the number of linemen, you take away the number of linemen that Alabama lost from any team, they're going to suffer. They're going to hurt.
Sure.
And here it is. Alabama wasn't that far away from beating Florida in Birmingham. But if that fake punt didn't work, I think Alabama would have won that game with having all those injuries.
No, they just didn't have the offensive players.
You don't understand. It's 14-13. They had all the momentum. Florida runs a fake punt, gets a first down, throws a bomb touchdown, 21-13. It broke their back. It turned the whole game around. But I don't know which game y'all were watching.
That game could have finished 14-13 very easily.
I don't think so.
Alabama just doesn't have the offensive horses anymore without Barker to direct the offense. And now they're probably going to have to put Palmer at quarterback. So what are you going to do, run quarterback left, quarterback right, and quarterback up the middle, and then punt? I think North Carolina will catch him on that.
We'll see. I'm just really been impressed with Bill Oliver and the job he did last year of preparing that team for Miami. I would never sell him short.
No.
Don't sell Bill Oliver short in his defense.
Okay, we'll give him some credit.
Yeah,
okay.
But just about that much.
What about Georgia? What is Zaire doing?
To be honest with you, from what I understand, he's been heavily involved with recruiting. And a lot of the people feel, a lot of the NFL people feel that he's no better than a third-round pick. And my feeling is that I think he's going to stay. He's moved his date back beyond New Year's, and something tells me he may be waiting to hear what Heath Schuler wants to do. That also may have some significance on his decision. But Zaire's been heavily involved with the team and recruiting, so
I hope he's recruiting some offensive linemen, or his stock's going to go down.
Well, he's going to have all his linemen coming back except one.
I think, all right, yeah, you think he's staying. I think he's coming out. I think that he won't be any higher than a third-round pick, but he will be a third-round pick.
Right.
If he plays another year, he won't be any higher than a third-round pick, so he's just wasting a signing bonus and about, $500,000 by staying in school. I don't know. That's pretty much a debatable topic around town right now is whether he's coming out. I'd say yes, he is.
I would too. Okay.
Y'all are teaming up on me tonight.
That's all right. Well, while we're talking about college football, let me bring this up. That Bowl Coalition, it should be the Bull Coalition, if you ask me, because the Big Ten pulled out of it, and they said, well, we'll show them on New Year's Day. Well, they went knocking on Iowa's door. Iowa had the worst year ever, I think, at 6-5, and now they're in a bowl game. The Big Ten's sending 6 teams to bowl games, even though they're not in the Bull Coalition, So I don't understand how that works, and they got to do away with it next year. I think you're going to see Notre Dame pull out of it too, because of them getting snubbed here on the. They have to go to the Cotton Bowl, I think.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me one bit.
So when you see Notre Dame pull out, and the Big Ten's already pulled out, pretty soon there's not going to be a bowl coalition, and then they're going to have to go to some sort of playoff format. They have to.
Briefly, let's say this about the Hawks. They're doing great. Do you think this is going to continue, or?
Team defense, good coaching.
Yeah.
How are you gonna stop that? I mean, as long as they continue to get good coaching, and Lenny Wilkins has done it all his life, and now they're playing team defense, something they never did under Bob Weiss and Kevin Logery or whatever. And they never did that. So I mean, now they're playing NBA defense, and they got good coaching. I don't think they're going to slow down. They may win that division.
One thing that I look at with this team is I think this is a very good home team. They just went through a stretch of 9 games where 6 of them were at home, and the 3 that they had on the road were against teams that weren't very good. They're going to have a game coming up at the Palace in Detroit. They're struggling a little bit, but those are teams that they should beat. They need to beat Washington when they play them over there at Baltimore. They have a home game coming up with San Antonio, which is a pretty good team. I think the key here is looking at this team when they play Cleveland on the road coming up. Cleveland is having a down year so far, but I think that that's a very good team and someone that's going to compete for the division. If they beat
But
teams
I think
like
Lenny
Cleveland,
Wilkins can beat Cleveland every time he plays them because he's so familiar with them.
maybe. But I'd just like to see the Hawks win some games on the road against some teams that are pretty talented, because it's going to take 55 wins at least to win this division.
Hey, they're over 1/5 of the way there.
Yeah, like I said, they just had a nice stretch at home,
Yeah.
and we'll just have to see how they play on the road.
Okay, we have a phone call. Thank you for calling. Caller, you on the air.
Yeah, I was wondering, what do you think about the 6.5-point spread on the Sugar Bowl?
That was another game that I wanted to get to here. Here's West Virginia, an undefeated team, and Florida is a 6.5-point favorite. But I really think that West Virginia is a team that likes to run the football, and Florida's defense is geared to stop the run. And I don't think West Virginia has seen a passing attack like Florida's this year. I think Florida's going to win the football game.
It could, but making West Virginia underdog could very well get them up for that game. I mean, when you're picked to lose and you're undefeated, you can get in that locker room, get all geeked up, as they say, and win that thing. I don't know. That's playing into West Virginia's hands, making them a favorite. Making Florida a favorite.
It is.
That's true. Okay, thank you for the call. Okay, I'd like to take this time and thank you guys.
It was fun. And if the people are wondering why we were so far in advance, this is the last show of the season.
Right. Well,
Okay.
it was fun.
Yeah.
Okay, I'd like to thank you guys again. Thank our callers and viewers, and we'll see you next year, next season. I'm Vanessa Johnson.